This is
Hi.
Christina from The Upcoming. It's so lovely to speak with you today.
Thank you. You too.
To start things off, would you like to tell us what your new film, Ish, is about?
So Ish is about two young boys from a town just outside London, and it's really about the breakup of their friendship and about how after a certain event their friendship kind of falls apart. So really it's about charting their breakup. Having a best friend is like having a first love, so it's kind of charting the heartbreak of what it means to lose a best friend.
On the subject of the town being outside of London and Ish's dad working at the airport, do you think the airport plays a role in this film?
I think it plays a massive role in the town, and for that reason alone plays a massive role in the film. I think a lot of people think that Luton is part of London because of the airport, but actually it's not, it's outside. And sometimes it's a town that struggles to have an identity of its own, but you don't actually have to look very far to find community and to find the things that really make the town what it is. And the airport is part of that because it employs a lot of the residents there. But it's not the only thing that's in Luton, you know? It's a really, really interesting, culturally rich place.
And what sparked the idea for this film?
I think when the opportunity arose to think about what a screenplay could look like, I think I'm probably the same as a lot of people, and I just thought about my childhood. I thought about the things that I saw, the things that happened to me, and what it meant to, on the one hand, survive those things, and on the other hand, thrive in an environment of friendship and love and care, as well as grief and state violence and all these other forces that you sort of find in the film. You know, and the old adage is true, you should write what you know, and I think that's what I did.
Does this extend to your composition of the movie?
I went to a free music school when I was a kid. It was run by the local council, and that doesn't exist anymore. And I think for me, writing scores to movies connects me to that part of my life where actually classical music was something that any child could engage with because they could do it for free on a Saturday. And so in that sense, going back to an environment where there was a community where the young people are lifted up, it did make me remember and feel what it was like to learn an instrument, to learn to engage with music, all funded by the community. I thought, you know, it's those kind of community and local council initiatives that like have meant that I'm like here today making work, you know, all these years later. So, you know, community is a big thing for me.
What were some of the challenges composing the score for this film?
I mean, the main challenge was doing it so quickly. You know, I think I'm used to having more time, and I think being the director of the work and being engaged in every part of the filmmaking process for 5 years, you know, you then come to the end where you have to write the score and you get 6 weeks to do it. And it was quite something producing that amount of music that quickly. But, you know, I realized as well that there are some passages of music in the film that I had written when I was writing the screenplay with Enda, my co-writer, Enda Walsh. So there was some music that I had already made, and the question was whether or not it still worked. And thankfully it did. So I built around some of the stuff I'd already written, and I wrote a lot of new music as well.
What is your casting process for the young actors?
So I worked with an amazing casting director called Lara Mannering, and we basically went through schools and youth clubs and football teams, boxing gyms, basically all the places that kids hang out. We kind of made inroads, and we saw hundreds of boys, and in the end the 5 that we picked were just felt like they'd known each other forever. And what was really interesting with our 2 leads was that the first time we put them in a room together, we knew vaguely that they knew each other because they were at the same school, but we didn't know that they'd been really close friends since they were 4. So the chemistry that you see on screen between Maram and Ish, played by Yahya Kitana and Farhan Hasnat, they've been building that for over a decade. You know, they've known each other since they were tiny, and we had no idea until we put them in a room together and the sparks flew. And so there you go, it was like an aligning of the stars. It was crazy.
Did you work with a cast of professional actors and new actors?
The cast is a mix of first-time actors and very experienced actors. So the boys had never acted before, and Joy Crooks, who plays Samira, Ish's big sister, she'd never acted before. But a lot of the parental roles were played by really experienced film and theatre actors. So it was designed that way. We wanted there to be a kind of hybrid of people where their performance felt really live and really raw, and there were people who had been doing it for decades. It created a quite unique texture to the work, I think.
What kind of research did you do for this film?
You know, a lot of the research was done because these are things that happened to me in my own life, right? But the main thing that I did was take thousands of photographs. That tends to be how I build an image of a place, or like how I kind of find the soul of a place that I'm making a film, is by recording sounds and taking photographs, like basically documenting it. And it's how the black and white came about. It's how like a lot of the dronescape came about in the sound design. All of that sort of stuff was just from spending a lot of time listening and taking photos of Luton.
How did you arrive at the choice of having black and white photography?
I took a lot of photos, and what I found was that the black and white photos I took of Luton, I kept coming back to them. And every time I went to take more, I would reach for black and white film before I'd reach for colour film. And so in that sense, black and white, Luton picked black and white, I didn't, you know, but what you try and do is you try and understand why that is. Why does Luton love black and white? And I think it was something to do with the idea that when you begin to look at Luton as a classical landscape, as a place that feels monumental, you no longer see the urban decay. You no longer see the fact that it's been underinvested in by the government. You no longer see that parts of it are falling down. What you see is somewhere classical and somewhere timeless. And to me, it elevated Luton to where it should be. It's a very cinematic place. And then the side effect of that I found very interesting was this idea that by making the place monumental, it already is monumental to those boys. That small town to them is like their whole world. So if we as an audience can feel the scale of it in the same way that they can, then something happens, something magic happens. And I think that's what the black and white does.
Your film has a lot of qualities of a coming-of-age film. What tropes of coming-of-age did you make sure to avoid?
I don't know if I avoided any, to be honest. I think, like I said, you know, you write things that you've done. You know, there's nothing in that film that's made up. It's at one point or another, either I did it or Ender did it, you know. And most of the time, we both had some experience of it. You know, setting off fireworks in the forest, petty theft from a shop, all these sorts of things. We all did that. But then also losing my mum, you know, and kind of having like being part of a grieving family, like all of those things, they're just real. They're just real to me. They're things that I know. So maybe I didn't avoid any tropes, but I wasn't trying to either run at them or avoid them. I was just trying to tell my story, and Ender was just trying to tell his story. And this is how we ended up with Ish.
What kind of discussions do you hope Ish sparks in viewers?
I hope that Ish sparks conversation about the police state. I hope it sparks conversation about the surveillance state. I hope it sparks conversation about what it means to truly listen to alienated young people rather than to look at them from afar and make judgments about them. I hope that the film does Luton justice. I hope that the film does those boys justice. And I hope that the film does the community justice. I hope that it brings attention to the genocide in Gaza. I hope that it brings attention to the geopolitical madness we find ourselves in. And I hope it brings attention to the fact that despite all of it, these boys experience joy and freedom in such a magical way that all of us adults could learn from.